This evening, I got to see an advanced screening of the upcoming Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. That's kind of a mouthful, I realize, but that's the title of this movie. I've done a reaction to at least one of the trailers on my channel, and I remember that I enjoyed the trailer. It was pretty funny because if I recall correctly, the impression that I got was speculating, why did Salma Hayek's character even go and get Ryan Reynolds for help, because she was the one doing all the stuff. I mean, he was, for a good portion of the trailer, he was someone who was kind of browbeaten. He was scarred from the events of the first film. He'd lost his license. He was going to therapy, all this stuff. And that's the case in the movie. Throughout much of this movie, he's that way as well. So I started to rewatch the first movie to kind of prepare myself for what I was going to be seeing today. And I didn't get very far into the first movie. I had a lot of trouble with the app that I was using to try to watch it, the TNT app. And I wish I had been able to watch the whole thing, because I would have liked a more complete comparison between the two films. My impression of this film, and I'll just get started right off the bat by saying that the critics hate it, which I don't think they were super fond of the first one. I believe the critic reviews for this one are lower than the first one, but I'm not sure how many reviews are out yet. I don't expect it's going to climb too much higher than where it is now, but I do expect that the audience is probably going to enjoy it, okay? I'm curious to find out once it opens next weekend, or depending on when this video goes up. I don't know if I'm going to put it up Saturday or if I'm going to put it up Monday, but this next coming weekend, which is the weekend of the 16th, I think it's coming out. And I'm filming this on the 11th, Friday the 11th, yeah. What was I saying? I was saying that I'm wow, I didn't realize that was such a small picture. Sorry about that. What I was saying is I'm curious to see what the audience is going to think after the weekend is over with, the first weekend. I just have a feeling that they're going to generally like it, the critics are going to generally hate it, and I am going to side with the audience because I personally enjoyed it. There were a lot of people in the theater at the advanced screening. They only had one showing tonight, and that was 7 p.m. And it wasn't completely packed because at the time that tickets were, available for this showing, they were still separating out the seats by at least one. It used to be 2, now it's 1. I think, when I watched this, it was 1. But now I think they are selling tickets with no segmentation between the customers. So now I think that we'll start to see even more bodies in seats at the theater. So what I was saying before I interrupted myself is that the audience in the theater that I was at, they seemed to generally enjoy it. There was a lot of laughter. I feel like this movie was funnier than the first one. I mean, the first one was funny, but this one, the dialogue in this one, and honestly, I really feel like I need to rewatch the first one again because I don't know if the first one is funnier, but the second one, or as funny, but the second one feels funnier to me. The dialogue in the second one also feels like more snappy and everything, but it's been like 3-4 years since the other one came out, so I don't really have a good clear grasp of my memory of exactly how the other film was. And I did see the first film twice at least, but it's been several years because the second viewing was shortly after the first viewing. Anyway, there was a point where I remember when I saw the first film that I felt like I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's rewatchable. I haven't rewatched it, but not because I didn't want to, or not because I didn't like it, but just because I just wasn't necessarily in the mood to rewatch it after the second time I saw it. But the first film was fun, a lot of over-the-top action, chases, violence, shooting, killing. But it wasn't until I saw this one that, and there's all of that is in there still with this, but when I saw this one, and I guess it's the same holds true for the first one, but when I saw this one, I really got the sense that the filmmakers, that this movie is a movie that doesn't take itself seriously. It's kind of cartoony. The violence is kind of cartoony. There are instances where people get hit by a car and flipped over and they end up being fine. I mean, they're injured in the immediate aftermath, but then they end up being fine. They break ribs, but then they end up being fine and they're able to run around and fight and do all this sort of stuff. So it's kind of like, okay. But I realized that this is almost this is like a cartoon, like, Roadrunner and Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny violence going on, and nothing really super major happens. They can just kind of walk it off, sort of. And the comedy in here, the interaction with the characters, and just the whole storyline just made me think, wow, this movie really doesn't take itself seriously. And the reason, despite that, this movie worked for me, whereas Godzilla vs. Kong did not work for me. Now, I was a little bit generous in my initial review for Godzilla vs. Kong. I think I said, what did I say? It was 6.5 to 7. I don't think I would give Godzilla vs. Kong a 7, honestly, anymore, because it was enjoyable at the time, and I did enjoy seeing the monsters fight, but there was so much wrong with it. That movie took itself seriously, but there were so many ridiculous plot things that happened that I had trouble with resolving that in my mind. And so fundamentally wasn't really super happy about that movie. This one, it's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's a lot of the stuff is crazy. It's absurd, but it's self-aware. And that makes a huge difference. I also liked that this movie didn't necessarily go in directions that you thought it would. Things happened that surprised you. And that was all the way up through the end, basically. Just because the interaction between these three characters and things would happen, and I would be like, wow, I didn't see that happening. I didn't see that coming. And so that was fun because it kind of kept you on your toes. Some other stuff was pretty predictable. The gunfights where nobody's really getting seriously injured, and the insane chases. And there was also the villain in the first one was scarier, Gary Oldman. The villain in this one, Antonio Banderas, he plays a Greek guy. It's kind of funny. He's over the top and kind of like your stereotypical bad guy who wants to destroy the world. In the case of this movie, he wants to destroy part of the world. And he's just kind of like this empty cardboard cutout type of villain, typical villain. And what I was going to say something else. Shoot. Oh, there was another actor in here. Well, there were two actors in here that I had either forgotten they were supposed to be in here, or I didn't know they were supposed to be in here. Morgan Freeman is in here. There's no secret about it. He shows up in one of the posters, but also Frank Grillo is in here. And his part is kind of interesting. He plays like some Interpol guy who is trying to work on this case so that he can make his way back to being assigned back to the States or something like that. And he's kind of comedic, and his dialogue is funny. His interactions with his sidekick that gets assigned to him during the course of the movie is pretty funny. Just the dialogue itself at some parts it was kind of cringy because Salma Hayek is so nasty in here, the way she talks. It's like at one point Ryan Reynolds said something really funny. He said something to her like she's like going off. And he said something, there's a gunfight, I think, and they're hiding behind something. And he said to her something like, well, first of all, your mouth needs an exorcism. It was funny because it was so true. Her character's like this little spitfire. She definitely has more of a presence in this movie than she did in the first one. And in this movie, there's also more of a kind of like it explores more of the relationship between Ryan Reynolds and the hitman's wife. So I noticed that, as the movie was going on, there were these little moments they would have with each other. And just when you thought something was going to go a little sappy and just typical, it would turn on its head and be just crazy. I have made no secret of the fact that I'm not a fan of dumb comedy. When I say that, I'm thinking specifically of movies like Dumb and Dumber. I hate that movie. But this movie, I don't hate, even though there's a lot of ridiculous, silly stuff that happens in here. It's kind of wrapped up in this blanket of action-adventure thriller. And so that's why it works for me more than a dumb comedy film would. So, yeah, I was thinking about that too when I was watching the movie. And I'm like, why, as crazy as this movie is, and it doesn't take itself seriously. Dumb and Dumber didn't take itself seriously either, but I still hate that movie just because it's just dumb. The characters were dumb. The characters in here, for the most part, aren't dumb. Like Salma Hayek's character, she's a little out of it. Like she's not aware of how absolutely ridiculous and insane she is, but that's the comedy of it. And it's like she's the one that drives all the insanity that happens in this movie, or not all of it, but a lot of it. And you just never know exactly. Well, sometimes in some cases you do know how she's going to react, and when she does do exactly what you think she's going to do, it can be kind of funny. But yeah, I enjoyed the film. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the audience thinks about it when it comes out. And I'm interested to see how well it's going to do at the box office. I don't remember how well the first one did. I mean, I don't remember it being a humongous hit financially, but I might be wrong. But this one, I'm curious to see, especially given the situation, with the whole pandemic and some people being afraid to go back to the movie theaters and all that, but whatever. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, well, I was going to say, if you guys have seen it, let me know, but for the most part, probably most of you haven't seen it yet. I don't even know if any of you are interested to see it, but if you were one of the ones that got a chance to check it out a week ahead of time, what did you think about it? Were you happy? Were you happy? Were you satisfied with it? How did you feel about it compared to the first one? Let me know what you think. Oh yeah, something I forgot to add when I was doing the review was that a little bit after the credits start, there's a quick scene. It's pretty funny. And then at the very, very end of the credits, if you are so inclined to wait all the way through, there's another super, super quick funny reference to something that happened in the film. If you don't have anywhere to be, you may as well hang around just to see it. It's just kind of funny. It's very, very short, like I said, but it's funny. Okay, that's it. Back to the video. I don't know if I'll go back to see this again. I might if my son is curious to watch it, or maybe my daughter. Because I remember we went to see the first one together, and we enjoyed it. But I don't know if they'll want to watch the second one or not. We'll see. Anyway, okay, I can't think of anything else right now to add. I think I've sort of expressed everything that's kind of rolling around in my brain during and after the movie. So I guess I'll draw this to a close so I can go ahead and get it edited and uploaded ahead of release date. Okay, that's all I've got. Later, guys.